Hey everybody, how you doing? It is Sunday, the 8th of March already. Can you believe that? It is March. I'm just blown away by that. We're already over a sixth of the way into the new year of 2026. Man, time is just flying by. So, by the way, it's the time change, so uh, it is 4 o'clock here in Southern California, and 7 o'clock on the East Coast. I'm going to talk a little bit here while I let some people come in before I get started. My main topic tonight is going to be Green Lantern, or rather, the HBO Lantern series. Now, I've been talking about it on and off. I did some TikToks on it. But, I want to talk about what I saw, what I thought, but I also want to address a lot of the negativity that's out there, which kind of blew my mind not because you're not, I'm surprised that there's negativity on the internet, but basically because I didn't really think it was justified. A lot of the things people are saying about it are, I don't know, too soon to really judge. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some other shows I've been watching. And I am continuing my quest through the Absolute Universe. I've finished the second volume of Absolute Batman with Bane and the whole Arc M thing. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the Batman arc. Well, I'm really enjoying the Superman one. I'm currently reading the second volume of the Superman, Absolute Superman, and I'm really enjoying that. I'm mixed, there's some that I like better than others. So Superman has been my favorite so far. I will tell you that. I have enjoyed the Wonder Woman one, the Flash, the Green Lantern. I've enjoyed mostly the Batman. I don't think I've not enjoyed any of them. The Martian Manhunter one isn't quite my speed, but it's still good. I don't say that people should stay away from it. I think they're all worth reading. So if you are curious about the Absolute line, I think you could pick up absolutely any one of them and dive in, and you should enjoy yourself. It's an Elseworlds take on these characters, and I'll tell you guys something. I've been reading them enough that I have my own idea for an Absolute line. I would love to write Absolute Aquaman. I even have an idea, something different, a different way to approach it, a different feel for Aquaman, and I even started working up a pitch for it. Now, I don't know how I would get it to Scott Snyder or any of that, but I do have what I think is a solid idea for an Absolute Aquaman story. So, like I said, I've been playing. Hey, Ed, good to see you. Kyle, the one guy in Lanterns looks like Timu David Duchovny. You talk about Kyle Chandler, the guy that was playing Hal. Can't believe you're attacking a guy named Kyle. Kyle. All right. But yeah, so I do have an idea for Absolute Aquaman. I think it would be fun. I don't want to say too much about it because I have in the back of my mind that maybe someday or maybe there's a way I can get it to Scott Snyder to pitch it, but probably not. But it's different. It's unique. It takes a lot of the characters that he, around him, and I think it would be a lot of fun. So let's see. Ed says, I don't know why the time change still messes with me even after all these years. Yeah, I don't get that messed up by it because there's very few things I do in the average week that are on a specific time. You know, doctor's appointments, uh, when I do this show, but and when I cook dinner, that's about it. Everything else is just kind of freeform. So let's see. Cal says, I don't know who I'm talking about. It's the wish.com guy from X Files. I guess you could be talking about the guy at the table that Hal's interrogating, but I don't have enough to go on there to who I think who looks a lot like David Duchovny. Just, yeah, not sure about that. Okay. All right, let's talk about a couple other shows. We'll let a few other people trickle in here because of the time change. And then once we do, we will jump into Lanterns. So if you guys have Prime, Alex Cross is back, second season. I am a big fan of Aldous Hodge. Loved watching him in Leverage. Thought he was great as Hawkman in the Black Adam movie, and I'm enjoying him in as Alex Cross. This is a character, of course, that's been adapted many times. In Along Came a Spider, a few other books. I mean, he's been adapted by a few big names, and now we get Aldous Hodge, but in a more grounded TV series approach, and it's really good. You know, I'm enjoying it. His partner, if you watch the show, it's kind of fun. He is the former the guy from the what the hell is it? Old Spice commercials. You know, the one. Look at me. Look at my hand. Look back at me. Look back at my hand. You know, yeah. I'm on a boat. I'm on a horse. That's the guy playing his partner. His name is Isaiah Mustafa. He's a former wide receiver in the NFL turned actor, and his first major gig was as the Old Spice guy. So it's cool to see him. Um, the season two is very different. Season one was very much a NYPD story or a police detective story. I don't know if he's in. Actually, he might be in Washington, but it's a detective story, police detective story. And this one is more of an FBI. You know, he's helping the FBI, so it's much bigger story, and it's pulled from like today's headlines in a lot of ways. So you know, you got that. I don't think they're doing actual straight adaptations of the James Patterson books, but they're taking the character. So that's kind of interesting. I like when they do adaptations. I like what Reacher does, where they pick one of the novels and they base it off of that. So the basic plot, and they make changes, of course, because they're doing them in different order and stuff like that. And some of the Reacher books were written in the late '90s and 2000s, where technology has changed, stuff like that, and the laws have changed. So the guy walking around with no identification doesn't quite work anymore. You know, those kind of things. But Alex Cross is going for unique stories. He's a good character, and Aldous Hodge is great. Aldous Hodge has this look that he can give, this anger look or just total disbelief look, and he'll just stare at you. And it's like that's that's a great look. That is right up there with most of the actors. You know, he's got that look he can give. So I do recommend Cross if you haven't started watching it. Season two is being dropped now. They're dropping them in weekly. 6 episodes are out already. There'll be one next week and one the week after to wrap it up. Uh, Two shows we've got queued up after that. I want to check out this Young Sherlock from Guy Ritchie, and I want to watch the third season of The Night Agent. Lisa and I have a running gag about The Night Agent. Is Gabriel Basso, the guy that plays him, can't run. I mean, you know how people talk about how Tom Cruise is great at running. in everything. He has a running scene, and he just looks smooth and effortless, and just you know he's fast. Gabriel Basso has that look of a kid who's running home because he really has to go to the bathroom. That's his basic run. And I saw a behind the scenes video of him talking about all the running they do on the show. And it's another one of those shows where people are running constantly, like Doctor Who. Everybody's running. So he's having to run a lot, and he's really bad at it. But he talks about how he doesn't really enjoy the running, and he's not really training for it. And all I could think of is, oh, bless your heart, you should train. So I like the show. I like the story they do, but that boy needs to learn to run, because it's not a pretty thing. It's not. If you haven't checked out the show, if nothing else, watch it just to see him run. So those are two shows on my list to get to. We finished the Copenhagen test. Overall, I thought it was really good. My only complaint is that they set it up for a season 2. And while it's a show I'll probably watch season 2 of, I feel like the premise was set up to be a 1-season premise, and they're going to try to keep it going. I don't know if it'll work. So, Ed is saying about the Baywatch and the slow motion running. We're going to get that. They're doing a Baywatch reboot, right? They're going to have it star who's supposed to be the child of David Hasselhoff's character, all grown up, and it's going to be played by Stephen Amell. So, you have failed this beach. Yeah. They've been announcing casting all this week and different actors and stuff joining in, but Stephen Amell is going to be the lead, and it's like, okay. And he's older now than David Hasselhoff was when he started in the show. And he looked kind of old for a lifeguard at the time. Give me one sec. Had just the start of hiccups going there. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with their running, but no, Gabriel Basso just. There are words I want to use because they describe it really well, but they're considered offensive terms now. So I'm just going to go with the fact that he looks like he's running home because he really has to go to the bathroom, and probably number 2. Okay, let's get to the topic that we're all really here for. Lanterns. First thing, has everybody seen the teaser trailer? I know the only person I know who avoids teaser trailers to save their life is Kyle, and he's already chimed in that he's seen it. So it's an old joke, Ed. So I'll tell you my first reaction when I saw the Lanterns trailer is similar to what a lot of people are reacting, in that, well, a couple of things. First, totally got the vibe of it. I mean, they came out and they said they're going to do, Ed says, I'm an old joke too, Dan. Well, I believe I'm older than you, Ed, so watch it. Just saying, watch it. They said they're going to do kind of a True Detective vibe for, but set in the DC universe, with the Lanterns investigating a murder in the Heartland. And you know what? That's what they're giving us. So if you are disappointed because you expected something else when they told you what they're giving you, I think that's on you, isn't it? I mean, they did say what they were going to give us, and that's what they gave us. I mean, we didn't tune in, and I mean, they that's how they described it. And had we gotten like this big space epic where they're on the battleships and there's a whole cast of Green Lanterns going, in Blackest Day, then that's a little bit different than what they pitched it as. So the fact that they pitched it a certain way and told us it was going to be this, and then they delivered what they told us, kind of weird to be disappointed in that. Now, I understand being disappointed in the sense that that's not the Green Lantern story you want. Um, but then again, there's a lot of things going on that I think people are overlooking. And maybe it's they don't know. Maybe they haven't heard. Everybody's talking about how, oh, well, it's going to be no very little cosmic stuff and all this. That's not what they're saying either. I think the biggest problem is that there are so many people out there leaking and telling rumors and reports are saying that have nothing to do with what the actual creative people behind the project are saying, that it's getting people worked up. I saw a report. I watched so many reaction videos and other report videos because I wanted to educate myself as much as possible on this. I wanted more than just, what I had heard. I wanted to dig in as deep as I could. I did a research paper. I put together everything I could come up with. Now, this was a teaser trailer to start with. Hey, Thomas, good to see you. So this was a teaser trailer. That's what you do 5 months before the show's about to come out. Around San Diego time, you drop a more intense trailer, a more story-driven trailer. This is supposed to give you the vibe, kind of let you know who the characters are, and just kind of get you curious. And I think that's what it did. But there are things we know for sure that are more in the cosmic realm, that are not mentioned in the show, but people are still kind of reacting to it. One of the things we know, and let me pull up my list because I really want to get these right, is Ulrich Thompson. Ulrich Thompson is going to appear in the series as Sinestro. So right there, is this Lantern's going to have the one from the Superman movie? He was great. Yes, that's another thing I'm going to get to. That's one of the things people are complaining about a lot is near the end of the trailer, at the very end of the teaser, Aaron Pierre's character, Jon Stewart, asks Kyle Chandler's character of Hal Jordan if he speaks to the other Lanterns, and he says, they're aliens. I'm the only human. They're aliens. And one of them is a squirrel. And there is a squirrel, by the way. Chip is a creature that looks like a squirrel, but he's an alien. But the actor who's played Guy Gardner, Nathan Fillion, has already filmed scenes. He's in the official credit list. So it's not like they don't know that Guy Gardner exists. The writing crew on this thing know that Guy Gardner exists because they've written for him. He's in the show. So maybe there's something that happened to Guy is the reason why he's not being talked about. We know that there's a murder in the Heartland that gets people or gets the Lanterns there because, and they're not going to show up for an average murder. They're not going to show up if there's a shootout. They're not going to show up if it's, an active shooter situation or something like that. they're cosmic cops. They show up when things get crazy. So that's the fact that they're there tells you something happened that's on the cosmic level. Um, Chris Mundy, the director or the showrunner, let me get the quote from him, or has said, I got a lot of notes here. Let's see. Oh no, it was Damon Lindelof, who's also one of the producers, said that the Green Lantern was stupid. By the way, he doesn't think that, but he was on a comedy show and he made that joke. But they dropped the Green Lantern because this is going to have other Lantern Corps in it. Hence why they dropped the name Green. Part of that is because you're going to have Sinestro. Now, could he be playing a Green Lantern? It's possible. But he could already be part of the Sinestro Corps. He could be kind of a Hannibal Lecter role where Hal goes to him to kind of get a feel for things. We don't know, but Ulrich Thompson is playing Sinestro, and there's reports that he's in just about every episode. Maybe he's in flashbacks. Maybe he, like I said, there's a lot of different things that it could be. Maybe he's who got killed. Something, I hadn't even thought about that. Maybe it's Sinestro who gets killed. Chris Mundy, the other producer, said this will not lack the cosmic element and sci-fi magic expected in a Green Lantern story. He also called it a buddy cop tale where they're investigating an ancient horror and dark conspiracy. All right, so Mr. Nope, good to see you. So right there, we're dealing with an ancient horror, a dark conspiracy. This could involve. I mean, there's some history with the Guardians that could be involved here. Maybe this is Manhunter related. The alien, the force of android Guardians that the Owens created before they made the Green Lantern Corps and realized that they weren't controllable. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's Parallax. Maybe it has to do with the Starheart. You guys know what the Starheart is? Starheart is the Guardians at one point wanted to get rid of magic out of the galaxy, so they collected as much of it together into a shell and called it the Starheart. That ended up on Earth. It bonded with an Asian gentleman back in ancient times and eventually made its way to a gentleman named Alan Scott. And Alan Scott used the Starheart to be a Green Lantern. That's where Alan Scott got his powers, because he's not a member of the Green Lantern Corps. But maybe it's the death of Alan Scott. Those are all possible things that they could be. These are all things that the Guardians have in their past. It could be other things too. The Manhunters would have a chance to introduce Atrocitus, because it was the Manhunters who killed all of Atrocitus's family. Now, we don't know if Atrocitus was his name to start with, because that would be really weird to name your kid Atrocitus, and he just happens to end up being the last of your race and in control of a ring fueled by anger. That would be weird. But there's an actor named Paul Ben Victor, and we see him in the teaser. It looks like he's standing inside of a restaurant. He's got two thugs behind him. And hey, Triple B, good to see you. Paul Ben Victor played, I'm pretty sure he played in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. He played Joe Quesada, the guy that gets killed by the train. But when he got hired, the reports had him playing. I've got it here somewhere. Paul Ben Victor will play Anton, an extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial devoted to exposing the truth and exacting vengeance against those who wronged his people. Consumed by a deep and unrelenting hatred of the law, he is determined to deliver justice on his own terms. Now, a lot of people thought he was going to be Atrocitus. Others thought he'd be a White Martian. But this could tie into the ancient horror aspect. This could tie into the Manhunters. So maybe Anton is Atrocitus. Maybe Anton is his birth name and he just takes the name Atrocitus. I am reborn. I am Atrocitus. It could be. That's always a possibility. So there's a lot of cosmic elements floating around here. But the fact is that they put together a teaser trailer, to get the most amount of people. They wanted to have the True Detective vibe, and I don't think anybody would say they didn't get that it didn't have that vibe of the Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey for season 1. I don't know about the rest of the seasons, but it definitely had that season 1 feel. The second thing is, like I said, these guys are coming out. They're saying, look, it's going to have these cosmic elements. There's another actress named, where is it? Porna Jagannathan, I think that's her name. And she said when she was being interviewed that both the Guardians of the Universe and Sinestro appear in this series. Getting back to Nathan Fillion said that he has said the F word more in his filming of this series than all his other roles combined in his career. So Guy Gardner's going to be in this series. How? We're not sure. But he's going to be in this series. So people are flipping out. Oh, he said that he's the only human, and so he must not be thinking about Guy Gardner. Or maybe the second before that clip, they talk about how Guy Gardner and how, he didn't like him, stuff like that. I don't know. Again, this is a teaser trailer. It's not supposed to give you everything. It's supposed to entice you, make you give you a feel of what the show is going to be. Now, if you're a Green Lantern fan and you're like, no, this needs to be in deep space, well, then I think you're a come lately Green Lantern fan. You probably jumped on board with Jeff Johns and the Rebirth and Sinestro Corps War, and the different lights and Lantern Corps, because early on, all of Hal Jordan's adventures were on Earth. He was introduced, and then 2 years later, he met the Guardians. They were talked about, but he didn't meet them for 2 years. Most of his adventures were on Earth, fighting Earth villains. Sinestro kept coming to Earth to fight him. So, and then one of the most celebrated Green Lantern runs is Hard Driving Heroes, which was the road trip story of Green Lantern and Green Arrow. Now, by putting him with John Stewart and putting him in the middle of Nebraska, maybe they're trying to recreate that feel too. And maybe when you're trying to introduce something that is such a large concept as more than just the Green Lantern Corps, but the fact that there's the Sinestro Corps and the Red Lantern Corps and the Orange, Larfleeze and Saint Walker and all of these different corps based on different colors and emotions and the Star Sapphires and stuff like that. That's a huge concept to try to get across in a single movie or in a single 8-episode series. So maybe what they're doing is they're going, okay, over in Superman, we gave you Guy Gardner. You got to see the constructs. You find out that he's got an oath he takes, you know, and that he's part of a corps. That's not too much. That's a little spoon fed. Now we're going to go and spend some time with Hal and John, and you're going to find out a little more. You're going to get more introduced to more of the cosmic stuff. You know, you're going to build up to the big stuff. You know, we talked about this a few weeks ago when I was talking about the Dresden Files and how first book of the Dresden Files is very small. It's very insular. It's about black magic and stuff like that. And then if the second book introduced werewolves, the third book a little bit more, a little bit more. Now, when you read the books, he's got Norse gods. He's got different vampire courts. He's got ancient the ancient evils. I mean, it's everything you could think. He threw gargoyles in suddenly. He just, hey, let's throw some gargoyles in there. I liked watching the Gargoyles cartoon when I was a kid. Let's throw some gargoyles in there. And he can do that now because he built it slowly. Well, that's probably what they're doing here. You can't. What was the big knock on the DCEU is they did Man of Steel, then they did Batman v Superman, but in it they wedged in Wonder Woman and as well introduced Aquaman, Cyborg, and Flash. And the three of them only appeared in video clips. But they were trying to, show this big universe so quickly. And that's when you got to step back and go, okay, maybe we're trying to do too much. Maybe we ease into it. Maybe we give them something grounded, a show that they're used to. You know how that worked before? They just do that with the Penguin? Didn't we get a mystery Batman? And then the Penguin came out, and it's basically The Sopranos set in Gotham. And I'm pretty sure just about everybody loved the Penguin series. Don't know a lot of people who hated it. So maybe it's time to step off the hatred wheel and or pedal and wait and see what they do. Yeah. Let's see. Mr. Nope said, let me catch up on what you're talking about. I see Peacemaker in there. Peacemaker is a lot. Yeah, I'll give you that. It is a lot. I like the show, but even there are some parts I'm like, maybe we don't need to have an orgy scene. Maybe we could scroll that back a little bit. But I mean, one of the things James Gunn wanted is for everything to have its own place in the DCU. You don't have to do cookie cutter. And what's one of the biggest complaints about the Marvel Universe was that they just kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. Well, they're definitely not doing the same thing over here. Peacemaker is 100% different than everything else. Penguin was 100% different. Now, I know Penguin and the Batman are over here. DCU is here. But the fact is that everybody would like to see this blend into the DCU just tells you that the idea that these are very different tonal things doesn't seem to bother anybody. But when they come out and they go, hey, here's a teaser for a Green Lantern, and it doesn't have giant green middle fingers and boxing gloves and, all the things that the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern had. We all loved that, didn't we? Y'all excited about the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern? It's the last time you went back and watched that. I surprisingly went back and watched it just the end of last year. But I know I've told you guys this story before, but in case anybody didn't hear it, before that movie came out, I got a copy of the script. And this was like one or two variations beforehand. In that version of what I read, the ending was different. The ending at one point had Hal the ring ran out of juice, and Hal couldn't get to the lantern, and he and Carol are actually falling out of the sky, and he finds a way to get over to her as they fall, pull them together, and their love recharged the ring. Now, maybe that's a Star Sapphire thing. Maybe that was like the start of that. But all I know is their love recharged the ring. Pete Townsend spent years just trying to get his love to open a door. I don't know if anybody's has enough to recharge a Green Lantern ring, but yeah. By the way, that's like a reference for Ed only, I think. So yeah, so that was. Thank you, Andrew. So yeah, that movie could have been worse. Trust me. Um, One of the things I really liked about the trailer, and this is going to sound kind of a convoluted back to the original Green Lantern movie, is that Bruce Springsteen's song "State Trooper" is playing through the video. And that's from the Nebraska album. And this whole series is going to take place in Nebraska. Nice tie-in. But Bruce Springsteen was connected to the Arrow series in an odd way. Is that every penultimate episode of an Arrow season, the second to last, was titled after a Bruce Springsteen song. Now, the reason that is that Mark Guggenheim is a huge Springsteen fan, and he was the showrunner on Arrow for a long time. He was co-creator of the Arrow universe with, so he got to name that episode, and so he was a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. He's also a huge Billy Joel fan, but that's just more of a fact. So how does that connect to the original Green Lantern series? Mark Guggenheim was the co-writer of the original Green Lantern movie, along with I can't think of his name right now. The other producer who put all those shows together, Greg Berlanti. There it is. It was Greg Berlanti and Mark Guggenheim were the ones that wrote that. I think Jeff Johns was also involved. So, all right. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at. So the big complaints people are saying is they're complaining about the costume. They're complaining about or the uniform. They're complaining about the no humans in the league because of Guy Gardner. They're complaining about the lack of constructs, Green Arrow or Green Lantern constructs, and I don't even know what the hell. And it's not cosmic enough. But we've got all this stuff saying there's going to be more cosmic stuff. We're going to get the Guardians. We're going to get Sinestro. It had there's a murder that brings them in, but it's obviously a murder big enough to bring the Lanterns in. It's going to tie into an ancient horror and a dark conspiracy. We have an alien living in the town. There's even a rumor going around that Laura Linney has been cast as Carol Ferris, and she might even show up as Star Sapphire, because she probably would be Star Sapphire at this point. So there's a lot of cosmic stuff right there. They know that Guy Gardner exists because he's going to be in the series. Maybe he's one that gets killed. Maybe Alan Scott gets killed. I don't know. Maybe it's Parallax is the evil, and people are like, well, the uniform in the closet wasn't green enough. Why would Hal wear a thing like that? But Maybe it's not Hal's. Why would Hal? I mean, because if you watch the video, you see two garment bags and then you see the uniform, but those garment bags had Green Lantern uniforms in them too. If you pause it quickly enough, you'll see the little open window on the garment bags, and the symbol is in those too. So obviously, there's multiple suits in that closet. Why would Hal go to Nebraska and take multiple suits with him? You know, maybe that may. I'll admit, maybe they come to Earth in Central City. He picks up his car, picks up John, and goes and picks up clothes from the apartment that he has and then goes. That's possible. But it's also possible that whoever is killed was a Green Lantern and they're going through his things investigating. Maybe that wasn't his. Maybe that was Alan Scott's suit. Maybe, like I said, Parallax was there and infected somebody, and the color, it not being as bright green might be because of parallax effects. There are so many possibilities, and these are just coming off the top of my head, which tells you that we should wait and see, right? If they knock off Guy, I riot. I don't want them to knock off Guy, but I really want him to get a different haircut because I really do hate the bowl haircut. I understand that it is comic accurate, but it's still horrible. So let me back up just to make sure I got everybody's comments. Is the Reynolds movie worth watching? I never saw it. It didn't deserve all the hate it got. There are some great Lantern Corps moments. Kilowog is good. Mark Strong as Sinestro is great. There's some good casting. There's some good elements. Michael Clark Duncan as Kilowog is fantastic. Jeffrey Rush as Tomari. It's all really good. That's all good stuff. The CGI costume is not good, but it needed some help. Is it the worst movie ever made? No. That still goes to stuff like Catwoman, Elektra, Thor: Love and Thunder. It's better than those. But is it great? No. Is it good? It's between decent and good. You're sitting around on a Saturday afternoon, you have nothing else to do, turn it on. You're crocheting, you're painting miniatures, you're stamp collecting or whatever it is. It's a good thing to put on in the background. So, and there's some good effects. There's some cool effects. The ending leaves a lot to be desired, and they do kind of go into that mode that a lot of those movies went into, where it's just a big sky creature at the end. But it's not as bad as people say. Let's see. State Trooper is a dark song. Yes, it is. Yeah, I was not that familiar with it, so I sat down and listened to it. It is a dark song. Okay, let's see. Do you speak fluent now? Nice. Because they are of the cloth. Yes, they are. Andrew, beautiful. They are of the cloth. That is one of my favorite lines in Superman, because we are of the cloth. Let's see. Andrew says, the finding the costume in the closet gave me some opening Watchmen vibes. Yeah. And Damon Lindelof is the guy that did the Watchmen TV series, which is well respected. I mean, the team putting this together, Damon Lindelof, Chris Mundy, Tom King. Tom King writes comics. He's written some great comics. He wrote Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So, I know some people have a problem with him personally, but his writing is good. I know that Chris Mundy has done like Ozark and stuff like that. Damon Lindelof is one of the co-creators of Lost. So there's some pedigree here for these guys doing a show like this. This is the type of show you want from these guys. You know? Let's see, what's the other thing here? I walked out of GL and said there's 3, maybe 4 scripts at least that that got cobbled together badly for this movie. Yeah. Like I said, having seen one of them, it is definitely a hodgepodge. It could have been so much better. They had the talent involved, but they had a really good director. I mean, the guy directed GoldenEye and Casino Royale. How do you not make a good movie? You know? But so yeah, those are some of my thoughts on lanterns. I mean, let me go through my notes just to make sure I got everything. Again, there are multiple suits, so getting mad about the suits is weird. They're not going to blow their surprise or budgets and stuff in a teaser trailer, so they don't need to show the big constructs and stuff. We know what the constructs are going to look like because we saw Superman. That wasn't the tone. That changes the tone when you're doing a True Detective feel teaser trailer and suddenly there's a giant hand or a giant fist made of green. And I want to address the other big complaint is that Hal flies off, and they're showing you flying, but he flies off and he doesn't have the green aura around him. Now, if you go through the comics, he doesn't have the green aura when he flies a lot of the time. He definitely didn't in the Silver Age. If you go to the Superman movie, Guy Gardner never has the green aura around him. In the comics, the green aura comes when he's going into space because he needs to create an atmosphere for him to breathe and to protect himself from the elements of space. So if he flies into space, then yeah, I expect him to have the aura around him. But just flying on Earth, he doesn't need it. And if you're thinking, well, that's a James Gunn thing, if you go back to, I think it's Justice League, where they have that big opening scene and they're fighting, and an alien Green Lantern pops up and he's part of the fight, he doesn't have the aura either. So, Snyder fans, this isn't a win for you because it doesn't matter. So, let's see. Andrew says the teaser seemingly was designed for people familiar with the comics. It's trying for the non-comic fans. Exactly. It's trying for the general audience. You got to remember that the number of comic book fans out there, okay, if you're a comic book fan, you're going to watch the show. The odds are 90% of people who are fans of Green Lantern are going to watch the show. Now, they may hate watch it, but they're going to watch it. So you're not marketing to those people. You've already got those people. You are marketing towards the general audience. Look how well the Penguin did because it was a Sopranos story. They didn't do big bat signals, and you didn't have cameos of Batman. And I mean, there was some people that was their complaint about the Penguin. How did Batman never show up? It was a week in a city that was devastated by a flood. Batman was probably had a few places to be. Plus, a lot of it takes place during the day, and Batman doesn't come out during the day. So, if you're going to investigate a murder in a heartland, a murder in the middle of Nebraska, do you want to fly in with the bright green aura, land in the center of town and start asking questions? Or do you want to just come in looking like you fit in the town? Small towns are notoriously are notorious for not talking to outsiders. So do you want to come in and investigate and try to figure out what's going on? I think keeping it quiet, keeping it low profile to investigate makes sense. And most of these teasers, when they come out, they're showing you like the first couple episodes, first one or two episodes. So you can't judge how cosmic it's going to be off of the first two episodes because that's where we're getting the mystery in built in and all the characters are introduced and stuff. So I don't know. It does and doesn't surprise me how much people will yell and scream if something doesn't match the vision that they think it should be, especially when it's fed by unconfirmed rumors. You know, oh, we should have all the lanterns. Lar Fleas should be in it. We should have Death, the Black Hand. You know, it's like, do you want them to do like Rebirth, Sinestro Corps War, and Blackest Night in one season? Is that what you're trying to get? Is that what you want everything to do? Push it all into one season, rush through it in 8 episodes? Or do you want it to start building the universe like the original comic universe was built? You know, Hal Jordan was active for 2 years before the Guardians ever appeared in the comics, before the rest of the Lantern Corps appeared in the comics. He was on Earth for a lot of his adventures. You build these things, you know. People nowadays, they want everything like, you know, the big knock against, going to bring back up the Ben Affleck Daredevil is, oh, he let that guy die. The Ben Affleck Daredevil movie was the story of a vigilante that becomes a hero. He changes. What he goes through makes him a hero. It makes the importance of saving people becomes more than the importance of beating people up or getting vengeance. It's the same story arc we got in the Batman, you know, but so many people expect to come in. It's like, oh, that's my Batman right there. That's the guy. You know, I want him to be where I want him to be immediately. You know, the idea of a story arc or a character arc seems to be really foreign to people nowadays. So Andrew says exactly. They can't handle a single difference from something they read 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Yeah. But that's the thing is that the stuff that happened 30, 40, 50 years ago are the things that are being, you know, adapted. It's the stuff that happened 20 years ago, you know. I see people online who hate the fact that Hal Jordan is old. And I was one of them at first. Because Hal Jordan is their Green Lantern. That's who they want to see. They want the adventures with Hal Jordan. Other people, John Stewart's their Green Lantern. And that's a large group of people because of the Justice League animated series. So we're getting Hal and John. But there are other people coming in going, no, Kyle Rayner was my Green Lantern. And why aren't we getting Kyle? And Hal Jordan, he's evil. He's Parallax. We don't want him. You know, and there's other people out there going, oh, we want Joe or we want Jessica Cruz or we want Simon Baz. It's like, okay, but those are all the more recent ones. Where do you jump in at? So these guys have given us Guy Gardner already, and they're giving us Hal Jordan and John Stewart. So that's 3 Earthbound Green Lanterns introduced in 2 projects. That's pretty amazing that we're going to get that. Now, maybe at the end of this, maybe Guy's dead. Maybe Hal is going to be gone. Maybe this is the Hal's last story. And then we go forward with John. They're never going to be able to do all the stories that we read growing up. They're never going to be able to do all of those stories. So doing something like that makes sense. While I would love to have Hal be the Green Lantern in the DCU, John Stewart makes sense. He's probably the more popular Lantern at this point because of his time on Justice League Animated. So, am I disappointed? A little, but I'm not going to hold it against the show or hold it against the creators because that's the choice they made. I'm getting Hal. I'm getting it with a really good actor, Kyle Chandler, and it looks like I'm going to get it in a good story. So, see, that's why I was like really surprised at all the vitriol online, because people just seem to want to be angry nowadays. You know, it says, why would you want to see something you've already seen? Red and no. Yeah. See, that's the other thing, is they don't do straight adaptations of comics anymore because you already know that story. You know, I'm a huge fan of Batman Hush. I love that comic. It's one of my favorite comic series of all time. They did an animated movie of it, and and they changed the ending. Mind you, I hated the new ending. Did not like it, but maybe I didn't like it because I like the original ending better. But I understand why they changed it. You know, because I wouldn't have had a mystery knowing I'd read it. That's why books get changed from during adaptations. You know, stuff like that. You're creating a story for a different audience. You create it to be the most, I don't want to say user friendly, but appealing to the largest audience. And you tell the heart of the story. As long as they're telling the heart of a Green Lantern story and they have the important elements in it, and it sounds like they're going to have those elements. I'm surprised Sinestro is going to be in this. I'm surprised that, Paul Ben Victor is playing an alien, that we're going to get an ancient horror, because they really could have kept this even smaller. It sounds like there's going to be plenty of cosmic elements. But then why would you bring in a Green Lantern to investigate a murder if there wasn't going to be cosmic elements? So I look forward to this. I'm excited for this. This made me excited. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to Supergirl. I can't wait for the Batman Part 2 and Man of Tomorrow. I like what DC has going. And I'm going to continue looking forward to these things. It says, I love The Long Halloween, and the Batman had parts of which I loved, but it was a complementary, completely different story. Yeah, they borrowed things. They changed the Riddler to be more like the Zodiac Killer. It works. My version, or the Riddler I know in the comics, he's still there in the comics. I didn't lose that. He just has a different look now in the movies. Andrew says, I'm always a fan of changed endings. Snyder's Watchmen, because it fit the time frame it takes place in, especially being able to look back from a different time. Yeah, and also it's a ending that fits the story a little better. To suddenly throw in a giant Cthulhu-like monster is a little strange in the story that Zack Snyder put together. Now, they made it work in the TV series. By the way, that was from the same guy that's doing this. But, yeah, sometimes you make changes to make the story fit better for the audience you're making it. Andrew says, yeah, the Batman keeps getting better and better. Yeah, I rewatch the Batman probably every 6 months because it's a strong show, for a strong movie. I rewatch Superman too, because I enjoy that. It's a good, hopeful movie. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Lanterns. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. I look forward to the tone. Kyle and Aaron Pierre. I look forward to seeing how they introduce Sinestro and whatever Anton is. Is he Atrocitus? Who knows? This looks interesting to me. and I look to see how it's going to fit in with the DCU. You know, do I think we're going to get Hal Jordan in the main DCU? Probably not, but I think we will get John Stewart. I think Aaron Pierre will end up in the movies after this. So, all right, guys, that is the show for tonight. I appreciate you all tuning in. It was fun talking. Andrew, Ed, Thomas, Mr. Nope, and all the rest of you, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do so. Like, subscribe, whatever those buttons are. I would appreciate it. I will be back next week with whatever comes up. Maybe we'll talk about the War Machine movie with Alan Richardson. I'm going to try to watch that this week. So, all right, guys, take it easy. Have a good night, and I'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.